So welcome
This
everyone.
meeting is being recorded.
I am Richard Waring, a longtime member of the Workshop for Publishing Poets. I think I began at the turn of the century, which was wonderful. And I want to begin with a couple of quotes. E.M. Foster was sure that if mothers of various nations could meet, there would be no more wars. None other than Rudyard Kipling said, God could not be everywhere, and therefore God made mothers. And someone named Anonymous, who I think was a woman, said, life doesn't come with a manual, it comes with a mother. And lastly, Jane Selman says, the phrase working mother is redundant.
Sure.
Well, I'm going to introduce Lisa and Julie together because they are going to intertwine their reading. And I'm going to jump back and forth between the two of them as they do so. So here we go. Lisa Rua Ware is a poet in Central Massachusetts. Her work has appeared in San Pedro River Review, Muddy River Poetry Review, and Lily Poetry Review. When she's not chasing her two rambunctious kids, she's working as a technical writer in the software industry, loves drawing, journaling, list making, and all things paper craft. And Julie Ebin is a member of the PoemWorks Boston community, studying under Alexis Ivy and previously Barbara Helfgott Hyatt. In her earlier years, she worked with C.D. Wright, Michael Harper, and Gail Nelson. Julie's work has appeared in Solstice, Touch, the Journal of Healing, and Off the Coast, among other places. A co-founder of the former experimental collaborative writing group Verbatim. She lives in Cambridge, Massachusetts, with 1 child and 0 cats. Please welcome first Julie, and then Lisa.
Thank you, Richard, for that warm welcome. So I'm very, excuse me, very excited to be here with you tonight, and especially to see so many familiar faces, including my mom's face. So it's very exciting to do a Mother's Day reading with my mom present in the audience. So I'm going to start off with a poem called Saying Goodbye to My Ex-Girlfriend's Son. I enter from the rain. He looks up from his purple train, shouts, yes, yes, yes. My heart engulfs his, my eyes light, engulfs his. Who knows why we've become enamored with one another? I don't know if anyone else is getting.
Feedback.
Yeah, totally.
Might be good if we all muted for a
You
second.
really should.
That's a bummer. Okay.
I think we should all mute.
I'll mute all.
Okay, good.
Would you start over too, Julie? I don't want to miss it.
Okay. All right, starting over. Saying goodbye to my ex-girlfriend's son. I enter from the rain. He looks up from his purple train, shouts, yes, yes, yes. My heart engulfs his, eyes alight. Who knows why we become enamored with one another? He clambers onto the coffee table. Twinkle, twinkle, little proud treble, steps off into air. Conk, shocked silence, then wail. I cradle him like music to partake of the lyric. He thrashes out, wants his mom, lets the dog lick his tears. I wipe his snot with my fingers as he wanders off to stand on the table again. Our game is true. We fly with hope extended. I can only breathe, nothing more. Let him fall.
I'll be reading a few poems before we switch again. I'm 37 today. I live inside where gravity comes and goes. Suspended, I'm a trapeze artist upside down, lifting the past like dumbbells. The weight is knowing I once was a child, running towards a sweet caress. I was a bow and a bend to the promise of who I'd be. I was sorry in 2 languages. Trying to conceive. So small, a poppy seed crawls through, tunnels my intention. February, I barely synced with the swell inside me. I wait for what won't falter, what won't come undone. Sound. The drummer beats on for me, sounding that staccato sound, chamber music emerging from my nervous skin. The cadence taps steadily. My body performs at the microphone, a crescendo in the static, crackling of air. Hear the heart, wait, there, a flicker of unsteady.
Nice.
Pregnant at the Taos Gorge. To my child, I want to be famous the way the gorge is famous, grand and calming all at once. Solid underfoot as its bridge, with banks of Eden for thirsty elk, small as dolls so far below. I will be the breasts of clouds that nurse the thirsty desert into flower-covered bloom. And it's fun to read that poem that I wrote in Taos with so many people who were in Taos.
Nice.
Fear of Io. Who was I to deny him his cosmos of amniosis? Just the 2 of us in that orbit, one nestled starless, while I incandesced comets in my neuroverse. But after 40 hours and 40 weeks, I awoke him rudely, or did he awake me? Time to face up to the real world. In the pre-dawn, we split the atom, gazed up at the new sky. We cried at the constellations then, he for the light and me for the light.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous.
Thriving. I'm a set of quivering arms, the echo to your beats and pounds, all twisted and turned. I'm breathing heavy. My body listens for your call. It's time for you to fall. I wait for your delicate skin. I'm your blanket. My skin covers your skin as they roll us into the OR. My arms tied to a T like a Bible story without the fall or the sin, just 7 precious pounds cut out of me. I listen for the first cry, relieved by your breathing. After birth, my body shakes. I'm breathing cold. Shock sets in as I hold you skin to skin. Touch is my way of listening with trembling arms. Your beat or mine, a heart pounds on my chest, and I fall in love with the rhythm. I fall for the quiet way you're breathing, light as you are, your every pound I carved, picked from muscle and skin. You're here with wiggling arms and legs. You listen to the sound of my voice. Listen as my quiet hum falls while nursing you in my arms. What if you'll stop breathing at my breast? Even as the skin of my nipple cracks, you lose nearly a pound, almost a pound, gone not from a lack of listening to nurses or keeping you close to skin. Is motherhood sometimes a trip and fall, a rise again, a try again, breathe steady again, find strength in arms again? 3 years later, your skin are mine, 30 pounds sleeping in my arms. I still listen as you fall into our breath.
Mm.
Low supply. I've been Holstein, Jersey, and brown Swiss. I've been Alpine and Nubian. I've been every breed, tethered to you when there's not enough of me to sustain you. I'm running empty again. I'm squeezed raw, your leaky fountain, your waning anagen, the broken latchkey, a jeweler sold out of gold and cream-colored pearls. I'm running empty again. I've been pressurized and vacuumized. I've measured myself out in ounces and the desperate milliliters. It's 9 a.m. I'm running empty again.
Mm.
Wow.
Love it. So by now you might have caught on that Lisa and I are going a little bit chronological.
Mm. Yep.
Just wanted to point that out for those of you who are maybe a little, a little slower tonight. Sleep training. My son rests his face against a blue hippo goddess, stuffed and tattooed in Egyptian ink, who perhaps waits in the middle of a river, cattails swirling, to say who is allowed to swim to the afterlife, who gets to be ferried, and who must not go, not yet. As I hang precariously over the crib railing, toes tippied, I rest my face on my small son's back. The hippo gives me a slow stare. She sees my breastbone, naked of bravado, praying him to sleep. After the marathon, April 2013. I try to fill my lungs with calm. Hear the little silences. The heat hisses on. A car splashes Mass Ave. No sirens cry, "Aroo." I sit nearby, my body. Watch each thought rise inside. Watch none. Exhale. Let me sit on the sofa and repair.
Rondeau for the hungry caterpillar, for Emma. Every night you pretend to read, trace letters, capital A, B, and C. The caterpillar in his hunger could eat chocolate cake or a frosted, sugary, sweet slice of watermelon because he was free to squirm and climb up a giant tree, build a home so he could be a transforming caterpillar. You receive my words. They are butterflies, you believe, as if life could really be this guaranteed. Everything you learned from me. I am your poem, your metaphor, the rhyme you repeat. How long before I deceive? Before I'm language that blisters and bleeds, my words are the butterflies you believe. Last baby. As my father lay dying, you sprung from that dark, your limbs, your heart wailing. There's no time, you pour out of me, my sweat, my blood. I can't believe you, arriving as a tiny fuzzy blonde. I didn't expect to see myself in your light. I was his last baby, and now I'm making you mine.
So we're fast forwarding a little bit here to age 5. How my 5-year-old son makes sense of COVID. His stuffed cat Mew Mew has the kitty virus, which is making the rounds in his bedroom at an alarming rate. We'd quarantined the cat, her tiger striped self, under some couch cushions, and we're not sure if she and her friends can go back to the all animal school in the fall or at any time. They're that contagious. I declare I'm a vet, but he says no, only his friend Louisa can cure her. Even though it's bedtime, he hasn't held Mew Mew in days. It's that contagious. We're in one room and Mew Mew's in another, but the distance in cat years is insurmountable. Thank you.
Oh, I thought you had 6 of them.
I do. No, I'm thanking David for
Oh,
his
okay.
comment in the chat.
I'm counting on my fingers.
Yes, thank you. Mothering 2020. He cried for me. I came too late, a miss with no bucket. Panicking, is this the pandemic or that eternal bug he had last fall? I'll let him watch TV, snuggle against me in bed. He says he's okay to watch this cook-off, not nauseous. His arm comforts me, sweaty against my arm. I bring him a cool cloth, chicken soup, a box of sorry pretzel crumbs. The tall girl wins with a fruit tart despite too much whipped cream. I'm supposed to work or at least make dinner. I stay. I stay, supposing I should. At least I can. I make dinner, it's spite, too much. I'm whipped cream, a not all there girl wanting to win something, tart. Sorry, I mumble, pretzeled with a cool cloth, chicken soup, his sweaty arm against my arm. Comfort me, he says. He wants to watch me cook. Isn't it nauseating? Snuggle against me. I get him in bed, let him watch TV for an eternity. My bug out has lasted since winter. The pandemic panic. I'm a miss. I can't buck up. You came too late, he cried for me. So you might not have noticed, but Lisa's poem Thriving was a sestina. And I have a sestina. That's how this whole reading came about. I was like, Lisa, you have a sestina about motherhood. I have a sestina about motherhood. We should do a reading together for Mother's Day. And poof, it was born. Wood in summer. Hammock bound, I watch a clutch of wild turkeys camouflaged in pine. They mistrust my distant face, long to scratch at marigolds that pepper my mother's garden. Pom-poms, another brilliance among snapdragons gone to grief. My child clambers over my grief, hammock seesawing the book in my clutches. I'm sunken in, a literary escapee, deep in another reality where no one whines or pines for me. But I can't take a hit of Acapulco gold, blow smoke up the bark topography I face. Sallow knots surface, the young mother grief of never marrying gold, no one to clutch in exhaustion, pining to share the parenthood load for an other who'd enforce toothbrushing, limits. Another pandemic loss clamors my surface. those remote kindergarten pics pinned on Zoom, daily lost luminaries. A deeper grief erupts, 7 years without writing, without dance. I clutch for prepartum marigolds. I want to be the person who kisses fingertips of gold, who can shift her reality to another, shimmy into a little black dress, disengage the clutch and careen easily over life's face, who doesn't count motherhood as a grievance, nor be too soon buried in pine. Behold, a cowgirl on a pinto pony, chaps lamade in gold. She chases barrels, aggrieved at only the official's clock and other 10-year-olds who dare set their faces toward her blue ribbon clutches. Chase her now with a wail, then another and another. Belt out blues grief to deface this gulled languish. Release rage from doldrums clutches. At my son's tennis lesson, I'm one floor up behind a glass wall. The coach says parents have to stay if their kids are under 8. What happens at age 8? Are we no longer needed? Other parents gaze intently at their phones. This is my chance to go write a poem. But I should stay and watch him, because what if he leaves his water bottle in the service line? I notice he's gripping his forehand all wrong, with no attention from the coach. It's already 20 minutes in. I could go right and sneak back in for the last 10 so my son won't notice. But what if he looks up? Outside, I'd settle on an edgy boulder, open my checkered journal, my thick pen. I'd set my timer for 26 minutes, 15 seconds, and write about my son, about not watching my son play tennis. I have 2 more in this set, and my mom might recognize this setting. At Cold Storage Beach. I miss my ocean skin, my underskin, columns washing up my calf, my arms shaking loose from duty. A lobster claw churns onto the sand, so recently ripped, its green turning blue. My son stomps the surf with gusto. Back home, my father awaits surgery, his brain accumulating a salty swell. This day is the reckoning, midway between autumn and winter. I inhale the pause, hunker in the bunker of me. I snuggle my son to my chest, suddenly scared. The ocean stinks of metaphor. My father's ashes would devastate this shore. A whiff of gulls skims white on capped rolling waves. Broken debris crashes from the top into brimming tides spread like rice after a wedding. I used to want only perfect things, but maybe cracked is more beautiful. It's the human we can't know. So we're moving away from motherhood to also thinking about parents more generally. And I wanted to read this last poem in this set for my stepfather who passed away this past year. It's called Remain Immaterial. At the sink after dinner, I washed the crust and gras doux out of a pot, hearing my wife and stepdaughter's sounds upstairs. Chair scraping at desk, radio, flute practice. One of my girls interrupts the scrubbing to ask if I will go to the store. There's no ice cream. If her happiness is as simple as a pint of Swiss almond fudge, how can I say no? It always takes me at least 20 minutes to complete the ice cream mission. I get in conversation with the clerk about what he'll do after graduation. Then on my way home, I slow down at each yellow light, making sure not to mistake red for green. When I was 15, my father bribed the road test examiner. The traffic lights color configuration was inconsistent then. He wanted to make sure I passed. Back home in the driveway, the Brandenburg Concerto mid-passage, I stay on, in the crescendo, gloves off, eyes closed, conducting the last movement.
Mm. Thank you. Beautiful.
This next set are a lot of poems about my father who passed away in early 2021. This first poem is titled Cod. It was published in the winter 2019 issue of Lily Poetry Review. My father places the dried fish in a basin of water, watches over the cod for days, nurses the flesh, changes the watery bandage where sea and salt shed like dead skin. And my father carefully rinses the pieces, washes them like baby feet, plump for the bubbling tide that can soften and soothe, that will crumble onto a plate, steaming.
Mm.
I love it.
Home. Home is 1,400 square feet, 100 years old, life scratched, wood paneling, linoleum curling, paisley wallpaper at the seams. Home is my parents' bedroom, 4 punctured walls, a dining room never realized for fine table and chairs. Home is a cracked ceiling, heavy blankets, old porcelain saints, a bed, a 40-year-old brown crib that is gone, but never really gone. Home is where a skeleton is exposed. My mother and father and all their regrets live tired in these bones. Oak tree. The windstorm hit strong while I slept. I didn't hear the thunderous fall or feel the weight of its split as my father laid in a hospital bed with age, skin flaking gray, veins fueling the body dry, arms withered small, no longer reach for sun as gravity pulls the trunks of his legs down. Doctors steadied the irregular, made his voice briefly bud again when his body was still torn. The oak tree in my backyard leaves the naked remains, a hole where the heartwood breaks.
Mm.
My father's body. I wasn't prepared for the body, the stillness of it, a life muted, how the gray sets in, how small a man can be. The stillness of him, a life muted in a hospital room, thin blankets against his rails of bone. How the gray sets in, the breath still in him. I learned how small a father can be when I'm too afraid to touch him. To touch him when I'm too afraid, how hollow a father can be. I learned to still breathe as the gray sets in, rails of bone against thin blankets in his hospital room, in stillness, a life muted. How gone a father can be when the gray begins, stillness, our lives muted. I wasn't prepared for my father's body.
Mm. So beautiful.
Just a few more, or 2 more. A tulip I never planted grows. One day, a tulip emerged, bright red, folded, patiently waiting to open his arms. He grew upon dead stems, last year's dried dirt, thorned vines invading the bed. He grew with the weight of my father's grave, 50 miles away, where grass seed is beginning to take against wind. The chill keeps the bitter still cold. The bitter still cold. The chill takes against wind as grass seed begins to grave, 50 miles away, the weight of him invades this bed, grows thorned vines, dries dirt, last year's dead stems. His arms wait patiently. He opens bright red, unfolding the day. My father emerges.
Wow.
Imagining my father is alive and young again. He sits tall on my sunken couch in blue flannel pajamas and a bathrobe he never chews. He's as gray as he was at 40. His olive skin is clear in the stubble of light. Sometimes he's the capped sailor, proud and sepia. Other times he's the stern passport man with a thick black tie and an Elvis Presley pompadour. I make him the man who's pictured, the man reserved for special occasions, who choose to see me now, the oldest he ever knew me, as I tussle with the hollow, detangle hair on the first day of school. He'll keep score, yell out, Golu, when the points are mine and I've gained nothing and almost everything.
Wow.
It's so cool to like be in workshop with Lisa and have heard so many of these poems before, but be like, oh my God, it's amazing. And like, I knew it when.
They've all grown up.
Oh, all your little poems are so much older. Hereafter. The living will forget me with every exhale, lose my wisps and fragments. I hope they'll remember me with scents we both loved, bouquet of wildness, spring dirt after drizzle, my armpit after sex. Recall fresh chicken soup with parsley, mom's eau de toilette, the cedar blanket chest whose smell we mistook for grandmother. Clutch and release each aroma, breathe them out as I become ether. If by accident someone blows in wet dog or stale grease smoke, distracted from the task at hand by all the tasks yet to come, I can't protest. I will unglue from their minds, eventually become no more than a parchment scrap, not a living thing, but ragged edges. Well, wasn't I even when alive? Ground by waves of years into waft from the back of some drawer. They'll come upon me in a last sweep when they sell the house and check for lost keys.
Mm.
So the rest of my poems have nothing to do with parenthood, nothing to do with death, nothing to do with my parents. But I just couldn't resist the chance to showcase some newer, mostly newer work. Workaday. The Sisyphean sun, that great alarm clock, rouses us to seek and make our mortal promises. So we are turned out like ants from the hill to labor in dirt, collect each grain until shadows reflect an end. Dusk melts a penny across the sky. Jobs done, we search for the evening star to enter its eternity before we close our doors. Miro's statement for the Nightingale Song at Midnight and the Morning Rain from his Constellation series. Why shouldn't I forge my own stories, my own reasons for sky? Romans named a constellation Orion, their hunter. My stars make stories, connect, as do the morning rain's drops, mirroring the nightingale's notes. The stars and raindrops I choose witness themselves, even with no person present. Yet I situate a woman to take them in, to awaken to synchrony. We are freed when she sees how stars are simply sun's points for the taking. page turner. Follow the score. Await her emphatic nod, horse-like, head rearing to indicate now. Make the move, go quickly, follow her muse, flow without breaking her, the instrument. By me, a mere prop, a placeholder, interchangeable with any thumb and index. I guide the piece onward. My thigh hovers near her piano-focused one, foot pumping pedals. Lost in intricate fingerings, I anticipate our final note, engulfed by sound, dynamics, pianissimo, mezzo, piano, forte, forte, rest.
Mm.
And Lisa has a tree poem. I have a tree poem. This is my penultimate poem, Richard.
Oh, perfect.
Red maple. My shadow crosses snow so slowly, creep of hour. I await each new day, each day's new minute, bask in daylight extending. Sun rouses me, stirs dirt and mineral. I drink each, remembering my sways bring energy. Call my reserves. My blood bubbles, awakening limbs wriggle with its return. Palms itch to begin, push tiny nubs from my skin. Still grounded, I feel a sound in my heart, a small creature scrabbling towards spring.
Mm.
And for my last poem tonight, Stickleback Haunt. Ghostly heron fishes at night, low surf by the jetty. Acrobat of stealth, waits, wait, strike with the beak. Sudden silver arcs flash in my intruding light beam. I aid the hunt god, the seeker, who plucks small lives from my illumination, who ignores me, mesmerizing. This totem warns, don't dare the rocks in dark. Galaxies could drown. I roam restless on the shore.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you.
And I just have a couple more poems and then I'll be done as well. But I guess I'll return a little bit to mothers. Washing in the cellar. Empty wood crates for wine grapes stacked against the wall. The labels on them decorate. Dark-haired beauties balancing baskets of green or purple, their sprigs ripening. Señorita Zinfandel, Pia, and Lottie Gold are still smiling after their fruit is squeezed, swallowed, and gone. My pale white underwear drips from the inside clothing lines where no one will see them, where my mother teaches me to hold a thick bar of soap, how I should let it sink heavy into my palm before I rub it into the red, before I form two fists and scrub until my washboard thumbs are raw, until the dark stain of me is clean again. Lipstick in my mother's drawer. I live beneath delicate handkerchiefs, old photos, and a black lace veil. I'm a secret rolling loose with buttons and foreign coins no longer in circulation. I'm forgotten pink encased in green shell that's rarely cracked open. I exist with the memory of embracing the day she let me touch the wet of her lips. I shined wild, even as she considered me worthy. For 53 seconds, I was her partner, the purpose of light. I made her young, unearthed her smile, decorated her American as she rubbed me against her. I gave myself to her, found joy in her softened edges until she twisted me closed without remorse, without leaving my remains.
Mm.
Thank you.
Wow.
Amazing reading. Amazing reading.
This has been our first mother-themed reading and our first theme of any sort. And thank you so much. Really, really wonderful. And we have, I think, more mothering to do. There are mother poems elsewhere in the room. And let's begin with Carla Schwartz.
Thank you. Thank you. What an amazing reading from Lisa and Julie. I'm going to read to you a poem that is in my upcoming book called Signs of Marriage, and it's an elegy of sorts, mostly to my mother. And it also has been posted at the Boston City Hall, so if you happen to be there to pay a parking ticket, you should be able to see it on the 6th floor south elevator, and I think they have a website for it too that I will find later and put in the chat of all the poems that were selected by the mayor this year. And this is called 2020.
Where she is?
2020, were you to have lived. You would have sat down at the kitchen table with my father that January night. Might have been the one to cook dinner for him, maybe a frozen soup. And even though he was not feeling well, he might not have been so indifferent as to wear his pajamas to dinner. Together at the table, you would have been there when his knees folded under as he tried to stand up. Might even have caught him, or you'd have driven him to the doctor that day, or you'd have had more sense than him to stop the both of you from driving by then. You would have had a smartphone, would have taken it in hand, punched up an Uber. And when my father recovered, you'd sit calmly discussing whom to vote for, Bernie or Kamala. When the pandemic shut everything down, you would have both worn masks among strangers, maybe taken strolls around the block. But when you'd learned about George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, you'd remember the Nazi soldiers with their guns bursting into your home, would have mourned for lives lost, mourned for being too old to stand and protest. The two of you would have kept company. You would have handled the technology, ordered meals, played the piano, video chatted with your friends. But by then you were long dead, and when my father's knees buckled him to the floor, as he lay there unable to rise, he might have looked up, heard you calling to him until the ambulance came. And that is my poem for tonight.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rick Ripstein.
This is a poem by my mother,
Wow.
written in the 60s. And it's one of the first poems of hers that I read and made me think, wow, my mother is a poet. Mothers were citadels. Mothers were citadels when I was a child, old and omniscient. My mother had gray hair draped in a braid and a mouth that was trained to be frugal with praise. All mothers are young now, attractively groomed. Their hand-painted kerchiefs preserve golden hair, muffle moans from the children whose bony knees buckle as they beg to be carried.
Wow. Awesome. Next up, we have David Miller.
Okay, hi everyone, and gee, Julie and Lisa, that I've what a terrific kind of braiding and combining that reading was. It was just a lovely set and quite fascinating. So thank you for that. This poem is in memory of my mother, who passed away in August of 2011. This could have been true. My mother still destroys her Scrabble opponents, especially her husband in his fond retreat from the game table. True, to rise from her chair, she depends on our choreographed hands and a three-toed stick. But when she commands the board after dessert, deploys the Q, X, Z tiles, my father beams like a Klieg light as he again declines to stand up against the force of her vocabulary. His triumph on this imagined evening where mind and brain still settle like lovers is that she still plays.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Up next, we have Manny Iyer.
Hi,
Hey, Manny.
how are you?
Good.
Yeah, thank you, Richard. Thank you, Julie and Lisa, for a wonderful reading. I'm going to read a poem which is about letters that my parents wrote to me when I first moved here. That was in 1985. From 1985 to 1993, they wrote me a letter every week. And it stopped when my father passed away in 1993. I would like to thank Pam and Gray for their encouragement on this poem. Letters from Bombay. Week after week, their word, 1/3 father and the remainder mother. Crammed an aerogram. Crammed an aerogram, tri-folded. It 3 flap, tucked tight with sticky rye, and my address printed out loud. Hundreds of them lie in a cardboard box now. Sightless, I can only bask in their love. I can only bask in their brand of love. The love that sat in his favorite armchair beside the window. His feet upon it too. The letter on his knee. The letter held to his knee. I'm sorry. I memorized this poem. I'm sorry.
You're good.
I'll go back to the love, okay?
Sure.
The love that sat in his favorite armchair beside the window. His feet upon it too. The letter on a clipboard resting on his knee, held by his left hand, while the right gripped an orange fountain pen he had filled with Camel Royal Blue ink, his bottle at his disposal on the crack sill. The love that flowed in discrete strokes of lines and angles, each shaping each character, standing straight and assertive like he was, and began with a date and place, burst into a stream of inquiries that sprang from my last letter he had reread moments ago, and ended with an abrupt reply soon, yours affectionately. The love that bent her small body, clad in a well-worn sari, on the scarred red tile floor, the letter atop a hardback huckleberry pen, and wrote in her curly cursive with a big pen she had tucked in her purse. The letter the love that begged me not to worry about anything, reminded me God was on my side, pleaded with me to quit smoking, kept me abreast on family and neighborhood goings on, and touched on the rising price of rice, onion, or potato whenever she needed a raise in the money I sent home. The love that walked a mile to the post office to mail the letter, that walked a mile to mail the letter at a post office she deemed dependable and lucky, in favor of the mailbox flanked by Ramji, shabby kerosene stove repair shop, and a dumpster on our street 50 yards away. And week after week, the sky blue sheet delivered me a pair of monsoon gray clouds, each laden with a brand of longing for the only among five, their youngest, who moored his life to a far-flung land. Thank you, Richard. I'm sorry about that.
Monty, you have walked more than a mile with your love to us, and I just so deeply touched by your performance. Thank you so much.
It's
Monty
beautiful.
is dealing with
Thank you.
blindness and deafness, and it's just, you are
And-
remarkable.
And memorization of a very long poem. It was beautiful.
Mm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Wonderful to hear.
Up next, we have Martin Rodriguez.
Hi. So I'm just going to read the poem. And the title of the poem is Mother. I was 5 when Marilyn died. The radio in our old Ford said she'd committed suicide. Why, Mommy? I asked. No one knew she was lonely. She was so famous, my mother told me. I would visit her, I said. My little boy's compassion for Marilyn stirred almost as much as the innocent passion I felt for my mother. She was pretty like you, I said, pointing at a billboard in our field of view. Giant blonde hair, red lips, a picture of Marilyn's face. I leaned over the front seat to admire it, blown up large to fill the space. At the side of the highway, I wanted to protect Marilyn and my mother, though I froze with fear that night when my mother yelled, "Go ahead, you want to hit me, don't you?" at my father, that sadistic drunk. But there was nothing I could do. My mother faced him down alone, holding a knife in her hand. She stood in the hall where she made her stand. She let him know that he could only go so far, staggering home, pissing evil, smirking every night from the bar. That thing she had married, it seemed he would never be dead. And my mother wouldn't leave him in spite of everything I said. So I shut myself down when I was 10, never spoke to him, and left the room whenever he walked in. It took over 50 years for him to die. My mother stayed while I refused her every call. By then, our lives were gone, like dried up skins hung up on the wall. But at last, when he was gone, it was safe to return, to see my mother in her retirement community show. Her black leotard with a skeleton painted on, twirling her black umbrella with the skeleton sewed on. It's raining men, hallelujah, they sang. And I watched her outdance all the other old ladies while they whispered. She looks like a young girl. And I joined the applause for my mother, who had become, at the very end, a star.
Fierce mother love. Thank you, Marla. Up next, Alexis.
Hey everyone, it's great to be here tonight. I thought I had way more mother poems than I actually have, so I guess I got to write some more. This is from my first book. It's called Mirror, Mirror. I don't hang it higher as I grow, so it's a bending down mirror. I see my torso mirror, an oval in old gold mirror hanging on a hook. Lights out, I become a lovely dark complexion, barely there, breathtaking. I kneel before my mirror, naked, my eyes shy like the mail when an envelope has my name handwritten on it. I am well known to my mirror, honestly mistaken for the fairest in the land, which I am not. My mother is not outright jealous yet. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Love it. I'm gonna call you Snow White from now on.
Please do.
Up next, we've got Margot Wazansky.
Everyone. Hi, everyone. That was a beautiful reading, Lisa and Julie. And it's wonderful to see Julie after all these years. Oxygen. In assisted living, my mother strips down to wholly, memory reversed, and her vision a cloudiness that can't be corrected. She stops weeping, comes to live where lost is charming, with her luminous waves of hair, 5 necklaces, 5 bracelets, 5 rings. 1 is beautiful, 5 even more. The gardener gives her a calla lily. The manicurist orders timeless pink, and the night nurse walks her outside in her nightgown to see the moon. New friends, elders with their wits about them, talk to her when she no longer sees or hears, leaving offerings, sacramental cards, and votive candles. They come as pilgrims. Peggy pushing a walker, Mary, her oxygen tank, Margie of the constant tremors, who touches my mother's face with dancing hands.
Beautiful.
Gorgeous. Up next, Kathy Whittam.
Oh, I'll stay unmuted then. All right, this is a poem about a mother who is my daughter. The bark on Augie's tree is looking so beautiful. On a surprisingly spring morning, my daughter brings my grandson to the river birch in their backyard. She squats to meet Augie's eyes, drifts her words to his ears like dandelion fluff. This is your tree, planted when you were born. Look how big it's growing. Then she gathers him, takes a dogwood bud between her fingers, explains how it will bloom into a flower soon. That's a bud, Mama, he says, eyes lit like mirrors.
Wonderful. Up next, our 9th reader out of 16 is Pam Gem.
Hi. Julie and Lisa, stunning. Absolutely stunning. How you guys put that together, I loved it. It was wonderful. I'd like you to do it again. Maybe I'll watch it again after, once Richard puts it up, because it was just stunning. Anyways, this is called Comet Pond. They take me here to swim in hopes I will be washed of my sin. Pollywogs at my feet. Little pond, harbor me. They've parked a station wagon so that no one will see me from the road. My big belly is a hot air balloon above the flume. Dad picked up coffee and corn muffins on his way home from work. He wants me to have a shotgun wedding. Mother keeps the car door open to watch me while she drones on to my father that the coffee is black and she wanted cream. They pontificate over adoption. I won't give my baby up. Despite Jesus, I bet they wish I get an abortion. I float like some inflatable phantasm warming in the morning sun. The pond becomes my golden dome. Willie, my baby's father, is the black swan. My belly doesn't bother him. My belly is a pond my body made to have a girl. I want her to sing Mockingbird. They tell me I won't finish high school. I will study biochemistry. They scold me that I'll never have a home. I will live my life with them. They tell me that welfare is a shame. I won't collect welfare. I know they bring me here out of love. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yes. Wonderful, that's right.
Next up, we have Papa Steve Nickman, who will be one of our features next month.
Thanks, Richard. Thank you so much, Lisa and Julie, for your beautiful work. How to make a liar. Ask your 5-year-old, did you eat some of those cookies before dinner? You'll get silence. Ask him why he did it. He'll say, I don't know. What he knows is being possessed by the overwhelming scent of cinnamon and coriander seeds, his mother's Christmas cookies, newly baked.
Nice. Up next, we have Sharon Foley.
You need to unmute yourself.
Richard, can you unmute Sharon?
Let me see. I can only mute. Oh.
Okay. Do you hear me now?
Yes.
You got
So
it.
sorry. So sorry. Julie and Lisa, your readings are beautiful. And when I knew that Lisa was reading tonight, I thought of this poem that I recently wrote, because when I was with Lisa in workshop, she wrote a lot of poems about her father. So even though this is a Mother's Day celebration, I thought this poem would work here. Long Pond, Harwich, Massachusetts. I don't tremble down the hill, but thrill to the clutch of the rough log, the rail of the stairway Dad has built. 7 steps to the concrete landing with the year 1954 carved in. The scent of honeysuckle cues me. Watch for the horizon, the first patch of lake, the pine distant on the other side. Now the narrow beach, rough rocks on the breakwater that brings the sand in, and beyond a sailfish splashed by the speedboat, making waves that never reach the shore. I revel in the first time of treading water, my breaststroke toward Dad, relief as our fingertips touch.
Wonderful.
Beautiful.
Mm.
Up next, we've got Connemara Wadsworth.
Lisa and Julie, I enjoyed your work very, very much and was happy to hear everybody else's as well. This is sort of a poem about my mother. And this is the shape of it.
Cool.
1945. Life was only this, all in an uncertain sea. My father didn't see her, he in the belly of a ship, me in the sea of my mother's belly. So she sent a silhouette, all of us afloat in the world's waters, in the belly of the war. In the world's waters, all of us afloat. So she sent a silhouette, me in the sea of my mother's belly, he in the belly of a ship. My father didn't see her, all in an uncertain sea. Life was only this.
Thank you. And now, Carrie Loftman.
Hello. I did. Julie and Lisa, so I have a poem, a mother's poem, about what you have to look forward to when your kids are in high school. And and you often find yourself picking them up from different places or driving them there. So this is picking up my son, sketching trees on the Longwood Mall. He has set his easel just so, beneath skewed branches of the common beach. Now takes a razor sharpened pencil from his quiver to trace the weight in air, to plot and turn from outside inward, the root, the trunk, and tattooed skin, to bring 3 dimensions of limb to a matte white piece of paper, pinned. So fluent his line. A rabbit scuttles into shadows of this dying down day. Lean light retreats west on the tracks of subway cars. The city exhales its multitude.
Wonderful. Up next, Clara Silverstein.
Thank you. I wanted to thank Julie and Lisa for a really wonderful reading. I liked the braiding and it almost felt like a duet. So thank you for that. Also lovely to hear everyone else's poems. This is Twigs for Mother. I never thought I was a mother who deserved my children. Warm heft of their miniature hiccups, flailing arms, ruckus of cries, and ma, 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 the depth of trust to hold leaves and acorns they bring me, treasures I don't recognize. I expected to keep treading lonely gravel by the river, fists clamped against privation, but my children call me to the fallen nests of the world, safety woven from twigs, carried high above the plague-ridden city. I cup in each palm the dirt they scoop so carefully, the offering of each shovelful. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
That's lovely.
Up
Clara.
next, our penultimate poet, Carol Hobbs.
Hi, everyone. Lisa and Julie, that was so moving. Thank you for reading those poems tonight. What a beautiful reading. And it's just so great to hear everyone's work. Thinking about Mother's Day, I'm thinking back to my childhood in Newfoundland with my own mother. And on Mother's Day, we would wear a carnation. And if your mother was living, you'd wear a red carnation. And if your mother had passed away, you'd wear a white carnation. And I just remember my mother in her white carnation. I never knew my grandmother, who died quite young. And I would wear a red carnation. And I always thought about how sad I was for my mother. So the poem I'm going to read tonight is about my mother, and it's about the last time I saw her alive. And it's called Lifting My Mother. Lifting my mother. Between air and the wheeled IV, my mother stands, wrist in my palm, her scant hand dangling, leading edge, trailing edge, a wing. My other hand clasps her waist below her ribs. And in our circular path, back from the bath to her bed, our arms curl in and in, her pulse a starling's. We're dancing, she says, pale waltz of laughter, even as she left me. Thank you.
Gorgeous. Oh. I'd like to conclude our open mic with a poem called Elegy for My Brother. Mothers produce children, and they also produce brothers, among other things. And it starts with a quote from Carol Hobbs. Now that my brother's dates are finite, I marvel at your death, the way we used to revel in Rosedale woods, reckoning with rock and root, trusting the brook to lead us through the known world, you always going out in front like a magic trick. Between sky and the sturdy shoulders of the horizon, we salamandered our way to the mouth of the stream, possessed of nothing but the butterfly net we shared that Mom made for us, with a broom handle, coat hanger, and cheesecloth. We plucked bloodsuckers from our legs, kept looking up, intent on spotting the double-tailed swallowtail we never did find, extending our lives into the sovereign day, needing no consolation, stone, tree, bird, angel, in light of what made us brothers.
Oh, so beautiful.
Gorgeous. Thank you.
It was beautiful, Richard.
Yes. Mhm.